Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this very special episode of Vegan Rock Climbing, this first Q&A. Thank you very much for your interest. Thank you very much for your questions. I hope I can get a lot of questions done in the shortest amount of time. I've got my smoothie, my morning smoothie. That's my coffee, so to say. Here I've got my list with questions, and here I've got my stopwatch. I will try to keep this video as short as possible and as information dense as possible. So put 8 minutes on a stopwatch. Let's go. First, I've got a lot of questions regarding my climbing process and when did I start? What grade are you at when bouldering? I started climbing roughly 8 years ago, I would say, and I trained the first 2 years exclusively in the boulder gym. So I didn't have any outdoor experience at all there. After these 2 years, I went on real rock for the first time, and I fell in love with it, especially with the rope climbing aspect of it. So I could progress quite fast to 7A, as I remember. Then I had my first little plateau at 7A to 7A plus. And then it went really fast to 8A and 8A plus, 8B even. And at some point I could climb my first 8B plus. I think that was roughly 2 to 3 years ago. And then I plateaued really hard at 8B plus. I could climb a few 8B pluses, and I couldn't manage to send an 8C, and this happened finally in this season, I think 2 months ago. So yeah, I was really happy about that. Was really happy about breaking this very big plateau. What made you start? Would you suggest any strength training? Have you got any tips for total beginner? What made me start? I think it was my dad actually who took me to this rock climbing gym. I showed a little bit of a natural talent, I would say, for the sport, and so I decided to stick with it, and yeah, I'm pretty happy I did that. Have you any tips for total beginner? I would say just climb as much as possible. Climb as much as possible in that discipline that you want to get better at. So if you want to be a better rock climber outdoors, then go rock climbing, rope climbing. If you want to be a rope climber, boulderer. If you want to bouldering when you want to be a boulderer. And because with everything in life, you know, you're getting better in what you do the most. So if you want to be a better climber, just climb a lot, especially if you're a beginner, I would say. Because, you know, the hard tools for climbing training, the hangboard, the campus board, all these things are actually only necessary to advance up higher grades, at least in my opinion. And when you start too early with those things, you're only going to injure yourself because your tendons and stuff like that are not used to this high impact of these tools, all right? Okay, so that's a cool one. What are your bicep measurements and how much can you curl? I don't know, let's see. 34 centimeters. I was able to pull the 18, but 20 is too much. And what chest exercises do you do? I don't do any chest exercises. The only thing that I do here and there is I do some push-ups for warming up. How tall are you? I am 172 centimeters tall. That's 5'6" for Americans. Ever had any big injuries or close calls when training or climbing? Yes, I had a very big injury 1.5 years ago. It's called the talus fracture. I'm going to show you some CT scans, not my CT scans, but just to give you an idea what this injury looks like. It's basically a bone fracture in your foot, a very essential bone, the talus. We are standing with our whole weight on this bone with every step we take. So yeah, it's a really hard one. Very badly vascularized, so the healing process takes a lot of time. And I also have now 2 screws in my talus, and I can't move my foot. I still can't move my foot fully. Okay, I don't have the whole range of motion when I compare it to my other healthy foot, and I think that's not gonna come back. I don't know. Even though I see some progress sometimes when I go running or something like that, but yeah, I think I will have to live with that. How did it happen? I jumped from a boulder and I missed the boulder mat with one foot, with the left foot where the fracture occurs. So always be aware of where your boulder mattress is. That's the most important thing when it comes to security in bouldering, in my opinion. When it comes to close calls and experience with big distance between bolts, and did you ever experience something very scary while climbing? Of course. Some years ago, a couple of years I would say, I projected this route in Series. It's called La Femme Blanche. And there you have a really scary slab to the anchor. The first half of the route consists of a very nice power endurance section. It's an 8A+. And the second half of the route consists of this very hardcore scary slab, which is hard to do because you're still pumped from the beginning. And additionally, the holds are not good and stuff like that. You have to step a lot on friction stuff, and it's really scary. You have 3 or 4 meter distance between the bolts. It's just with climbing in general. You will, sooner or later, you will get into scary situations. And that's also an interesting aspect of climbing, in my opinion. How good can you handle these scary situations? And there's another question. Have you ever free soloed something? No, I did not climb anything free solo yet. Is that something I would try in the future? Maybe. It's also a very interesting aspect, I would say, to climb completely without belaying devices, because you have the maximum freedom. That's at least what I can imagine doing it. But yeah, I would have to know the route really well, and it's also not gonna be a hard one, of course. No dynamic moves and no chossy rock and stuff like that. Yeah, of course, because you don't want to have unnecessary risk involved here. What are you studying? I'm doing my master's in biology at the moment at the University of Vienna. What approach do you have concerning a project? How do you work a route in the 8th degree? Well, when I project a route, the first thing I try is to make every single move, to climb every single move. When I did that, then I should already have an idea of how close I am to sending the route, okay? Depends also on the character of the route, of course. If it's a power endurance piece and you manage to do every single move, then let's say it's almost nothing, all right? If it's a boulder problem, after a huge rest or something like that, then you can do every single move, then that means a lot. That means actually that you're close to the sand. So it depends also here on the character of the route. Any training tips how I can progress from 6C to 7A? Periodization, progressing past the plateau at around 7B. Alright, I want to do a video about this because it's a question that I get asked a lot, I recognized. That's breaking a plateau. And the reason why I comprise these questions into one here is because one of the big tips that I can give you to break plateaus in general is periodization. It means you're focusing on one aspect of climbing, let's say on core strength, for example, letting the other skills fall down, alright? And then you focus on another skill like power endurance, for example, okay? Letting the other skills fall down. And actually this falling down process is really essential, because when you get back to these skills, when you're a little bit weaker now, then you will relatively fast be at your level that you had before, and this process will gain a certain kind of momentum, all right? And if you're gaining this kind of momentum in all your different skills, you know, by periodization, then you will eventually manage to break this plateau. But I'm gonna talk about that in that video, so stay tuned for that. Personal stuff. Do you have a girlfriend? Yes, she's very sweet. You may have noticed her in other videos, especially in the vlog episodes. And it's really cool to hang out with her because she's vegan and she's a rock climber as well. So yeah, couldn't get any better than that. Favorite food? I would say nothing beats a well-made tortilla falafel. That's really awesome with a lot of hummus and tahini sauce and stuff like that. But I also like these Chinese noodle soups, you know, which are really salty and with a lot of vegetables and stuff like that. That's awesome. Favorite color? I think it's blue, but I'm not sure. Favorite music? I listen to everything that's good. And favorite drink? Alcohol-free beer. Yes, it's true. Okay, so what else do we have on the list? That's an interesting one. Learn something by making videos about climbing. Yes, definitely. I would say it's a very important thing for any climber to at least see yourself once while climbing. Because we do a lot of mistakes that we do not recognize when we just climb by ourselves. We need to step out of ourselves, of our body, and actually watch us doing it. And then you can see, oh man, I'm actually pretty slow here, or I'm pretty fast. Oh man, why do I lock off this chart for resting or stuff like that, okay? You don't notice that when you're in the route, in the sand thrill, So it's really helpful to step out here of yourself and watch yourself doing it, and making a video about it is a perfect way to do that. And another thing would be, you may have the notion that I'm a really mindful climber, that I'm a really theoretical guy who analyzes everything exactly and stuff like that. But when it comes to technique, mainly because of my technique episodes, because they are so, I don't know, analytic, I would say. But I'm actually a guy who underrates technique, especially when it comes to higher grades. I tend to say, oh man, it's actually all about the power. And in my opinion, it is actually a lot of just power, especially at the higher grades. It just depends on, have you got enough finger strength to hold this crimp or not? Have you got enough power endurance to stick through that section, okay? At higher grades, the technique aspect of climbing should be already intuitive, all right? You do not concentrate on that anymore. You do concentrate on that when you're checking out the route, when you try to make the moves as efficient as possible, and their technique plays a role, of course, but at the sand, it just depends on how much power you have, because all the technique aspects are already memorized in your muscle memory. You don't have to concentrate on that anymore. But anyway, and then I also got a lot of questions about veganism, and that's awesome because I want this to be an important aspect of this channel as well. You know, mindful eating, mindful climbing, efficient eating, efficient climbing. So as you can see, all these things are a little bit connected here, and if you can do one thing, then you can also do the other thing. When did you start being vegan, and how did you find the vegan lifestyle? What about nuts and seeds? What about legumes? I found the vegan lifestyle 1 year ago. I started being vegan 1 year ago, and I was vegetarian I think 8 years before that, a couple of ages, so I was already used to abstain from a certain kind of food, namely from meat. So it was not so hard for me to entirely give up also eggs and cheese and dairy and stuff like that. Especially in the 1-2 years before I really started to go vegan 100%, I was already consuming a very, very low percentage of my calories from these foods. So yeah, it was not so hard to give it up, and one of the major factors was that my girlfriend then went vegan completely, and then I started to hop on the train as well. So what about nuts and seeds? What about legumes? Why do I never eat this in my videos? Actually, I eat nuts and seeds quite a lot, only I eat it at the days before rest days. The reason for that is because they are very fatty foods, and I have the feeling that if I ingest a lot of fatty foods, on the next day my performance sucks, okay? So I try to just eat my fats, to get my fats in on the day before the rest day. So on the rest day it doesn't matter when my performance sucks, so yeah. That's my strategy here. And regarding legumes, I pretty much eat them a lot, actually, almost in every meal. I especially love lentils, sprouted lentils. I've discovered this trick some time ago. Sprouted lentils will make the lentils very much more digestible, at least in my experience. And another thing that I love very much is peas, because they are so easy to use. You just have to take out your frozen peas, throw them into your, I don't know, rice with vegetables or something like that, and they're gonna cook through very easily and are ready instantly. So yeah, peas and sprouted lentils are my favorite legumes, and I eat them quite often actually. Are you vegan because of health aspects? My opinion about animal exploitation. I am vegan because of the health aspect, but not only because of that, also because of all the other good reasons that are out there. Environmental aspects, animal exploitation aspects. It's really crazy what goes on in the animal product industry, okay? If you're not aware of that, then I would suggest you to watch 3 documentaries: Earthlings, Cowspiracy, and Forks Over Knives, and you will definitely consider consuming animal products one more time, alright? Also, the environmental aspect is very important to me, because as we know, animal agriculture is today one of the major threats of our climate, okay? It's one of the main contributors to greenhouse gas emissions. And yeah, if we want to protect the environment that we as climbers love so much, you know, the cracks out there, beautiful nature and green trees and stuff like that, then we should also take responsibility of that stuff. We should also be a mindful eater, okay? We should eat in such a way that we don't have the biggest impact on our nature, if you love it really that much, in my opinion. Do you ever plan to go to the UK? I was in London once and it was really cool. I would love to go there again, but unfortunately I didn't plan anything for the near future. So yeah, maybe somewhere in the future. Do you think weight is an important factor when it comes to high level climbing? Definitely. Weight is the most important physical property of your body for climbing, by far, I would say, in my opinion. So the ideal climber is as lightweight as possible with the maximum reach possible. Of course, these two things exist in a trade-off relationship. So if you're taller and have more reach, then you obviously will also be heavier. But yeah, the ideal climber is relatively tall, in my opinion, and rail thin, rail thin. Do you ever feel obsessed with climbing? What about real life responsibilities? Yes, I feel obsessed with climbing quite a lot. And I think it's a real life responsibility. Climbing is real life. You always have to keep in mind that you live only once, alright? So you have to get the maximum out of it in regards to climbing. If that's what you want to do, you gotta go for it. Go for it as much as you want, go for it as much as you can, okay? As much as your resources allow it, time-wise and financial-wise. So yeah, here definitely, if you have a dream, if you want to do something, if that's rock climbing, then do it. Go for it. Alright guys, my smoothie jug is empty. That means this Q&A is over now. I hope the video didn't get too long, and I hope at the same time that your questions got answered. I will definitely make another Q&A video in the future, I don't know, at 3,000 subscribers or something like that. So there's gonna definitely be another chance to get your question through. I will also try to answer all those questions that I didn't answer in this video in the comment section of the previous video, so that also these questions get some kind of answer. And then I want to thank you very much for your interest. Thank you for watching this video. Please share your opinions and criticisms in the comments down below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to this awesome channel. Thank you for watching and see you soon. Bye.